Hi, I'm Jill from H4RL. We're a homeschooling family and we love to play educational games as part of our kids' schooling. Today I'm going to be talking about a geography game called Game of the States. Who sells the most from coast to coast? And as you can see, our game is beat up and old. This is a game that's been around for a while. I actually got my copy at the thrift store, and so mine is straight out of the 1970s, I think. But there is a new version that you can get on Amazon now from Hasbro, and it's updated and very nice. So we'll talk about some of the differences, but I'll show you my old game that we play with. It's a really fun one. It takes the U.S. states, geography, knowing where they're at, knowing the shapes of the states, knowing the capitals of the states, and facts about them, like their nickname, things like that. And it makes it fun. It makes it into an actual game you can play, not just trivia. You can use the cards for trivia, but there's a whole game to play in addition to that. So I'll show you how to play the game and what the components look like in the 1970s, and I'll also show you what they look like today. And you can see if you think it would be a good fit for your family. If you don't mind, it really helps us out if you like the video and subscribe to our channel. Like I said, we review a lot of educational games, so if you don't want to miss those, subscribing will make sure you know when a new video comes out. If you happen to be listening to this and you'd like to see the game, you can find us on YouTube and I'll show you all the game components. Okay, let's take a look at the game. So here's what the game board looked like back in the 1970s. Today it looks much the same, just updated and probably more fun. One difference you'll notice is that Puerto Rico was on the game back then and it is not now. Hawaii and Alaska obviously are still there, but that one is gone. So basically in this game, each player has a plastic truck and they have some goods that match the color of their truck. And in the new game, these are like little squares, little plastic squares. My game didn't quite have all the pieces, so I had to make some. But every state, I think in the new game, each state shows two products that state makes. So you can see on here, Kansas produces steaks, meat and wheat, and airplanes. But there is a key with the game to tell you what the little graphics stand for. In addition to learning where the states are, the shape of the states, you're also going to learn about the goods that are produced there. So in order to set up the game, you've got a stack of state cards. Now this is the biggest difference in the modern game and the old game. The old game has these very boring looking cards, but they do have good information. The new game, the cards are much more visual. They have an outline of the shape of the state. They have the nickname of the state, the capital, fun facts like the state bird and the state flower. They also have a STEM fact, something to do with the state. The new cards are way better than these. You also have when it became a state. But these have good information on them nonetheless. So you have those state cards. Each player is going to start off with some money, $5,000 in 500s and $100 bills. And then to set up the game, you're going to use the state cards in order to figure out where to put your truck and your goods. So I'll draw one card, Massachusetts. So my truck is going to go in Massachusetts, which is one of those over here. And then, oops, this one's flipped the wrong way. Nevada. I'm going to put one of my goods in Nevada. One in Connecticut, another tiny state over here. One in Utah. And one in Vermont, up here. I guess I should put it over here. And then the yellow truck person is going to do the same. So once we use the cards, we just put them back on the bottom of the deck. So let me set up the yellow truck and their goods. So our trucks have ended up on opposite sides of the United States, and so have our goods, really. We didn't end up with anything in the center of the state here. The game comes with 4 trucks, so you can have up to 4 players at a time. And so now, what we do on each turn, we're going to try to go and pick up some goods that are not our own, something that does not belong to us. And so there's a spinner included with the game. Mine, my old one, looks like this. And so we're spinning here to find out whether we get to move 1, 2, or 3 spaces. And then these spaces in between, you are broken down. You don't get to move. And we'll talk about what happens when you hit those. So not only do you not get to move, there's a little extra if you happen to be carrying a load. In the new game, you also get a spinner. And in that case, these 3 are combined into one that say traffic jam. But the same thing happens. So depending on what I spin, it tells me how far I can move. So I am in Massachusetts right here. I can only go 1 because I spun 1, but I only have to go 1. So you count these spaces. Anything adjacent you can move into and count as 1. So if I had 3, I could go 1, 2, 3 to get to Maryland, or 3 to get to Ohio. Anything adjacent, you just count as a space. But I only need 1, and I'm in New York. And the yellow player has some goods there, so that's perfect for me. So now that I have arrived there, I can look at what goods are there. It looks like textiles, clothing, is one of the things produced in New York. So I can tell the yellow player, I'd like to buy some of your textiles. And I have to make an offer. So in my old game, my spinner's broken. But in the new game, you'll have a nice new spinner, and so you can spin the amount that you're willing to pay. We just wrote them on a die, so I can say, I'll give you $200, which happens to be the lowest amount on here. So they're probably going to say, no, you've got to do better than that. They get the chance to do that once. Then I spin again, or roll again in this case. Now I rolled 800, I have to give them 800, and they have to accept it. So that's kind of a bummer for me, but it worked out well for them. It's a little bit of a risk if you ask them to roll again. Typically, in that case, it wasn't because I had rolled the lowest, so they couldn't really do any worse than that. So I would pay them $800 out of my money. I would give that to the yellow player. And then I pick up the load. And the yellow player picks up a state card to tell me where to take it. Now, in the new version of the game, it tells you that they should tell me the state and ask me for the state capital. And if I can tell them the state capital correctly, I get to go ahead and move 1 space in the direction of this state. If I get it wrong, I don't get to move. Either way, I put this card in front of me because I am now on my way to Montana. So I've got to deliver this load to Montana. It's not my turn anymore. Other players are going to go and try to pick up loads and move around the board. So basically, I'm going to keep spinning and moving until I get all the way to Montana. So it's going to take me a few turns. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I've made it to Iowa at this point. That would have been silly though. 7 should go on to Nebraska. Because this just would have been, well, I would have gotten there, I guess. Either way. Okay. So let's say I'm right here in Nebraska and I spin and I land on breakdown, lose turn. I have to turn my truck over and put my load out for anyone else who wants to get it until my next turn. So until my next turn, this is sitting here vulnerable. So if another player can get there, they can pick up this load, put it in their own truck, and they only have to pay me, depending on whether you have the old game directions or the new game directions, they only have to pay me $200, and they get to take that load. So that's a good way to get a bargain. And they now are the ones who have to get it to Montana. Now, since this is their own good, these goods belong to them, they're yellow, they matched them. When they deliver those, all players have to give them $200 for delivering their own load. But let's say, on the contrary, that it was back to my turn, nobody had taken the load. Nobody made it there. So I'm still on my way with it. I've still got it. I just put it right back in and I finish getting to Montana. At this point, I've delivered the load. Now I need to sell it. I bought it when I picked it up back over here in New York. Now that I've made it to Montana, I'm going to sell it. So this can just go right back on the bottom of the deck. This is another place where the two games differ. And I think it's good to know both ways because you can play however you prefer. The new game has a banker. One player has to be the banker. So they're not actually getting to move around the board. So I'm just going to sell this back to the banker. And once again, I am spinning and determining whether or not I'm accepting that selling price. So this time I would spin and I would decide, okay, 200, no, that's not great. One more time, okay, banker, give me 500, right? In our game, I'm actually selling it back to the yellow player. So once again, I'd spin, I'd say, okay, I'll sell it to you for 800. And they're going to say, yeah, I'll accept that offer. Or if it were lower, they could have me roll again or spin again and hope something better comes of that. And then there is a spot to put this because remember this was representing textiles from New York. So there's a spot to put this showing that it was textiles that were purchased. And I don't have that out here, but just know there is a little spot to put that. So that one is out of the game now. It's done. And I'm going to move on my way to go and pick up another good that's available on the board. So the yellow truck would have been moving to pick up my green ones. You can only pick up goods that are not your own. I cannot come and pick up these green goods until there aren't any goods of another color left. And at that point, I am able to pick up my own. And then once there are no goods left on the board, no goods left in trucks, everybody has delivered them, that signals the end of the game. And at the end of the game, the player with the most money wins the game. So you can throw in additional rules as you play to make this game even more educational. So at the base level, they're seeing the map of the United States, they're moving to the different states, they're seeing the goods that are produced there, they're doing a little bit of math with the money. At bare minimum, they're going to be learning that, right? But you can also add in, like I said, the state capitals. You can require them to name the state capital as they move through each of the states, right? Moving through Nebraska, Lincoln, Colorado, Denver, Utah, Salt Lake City. You can have them name those as they move through. If you want to, you can, when you pull the state card to tell them where they have to go, you can have them spell the name of the state, or you can have them give you the state capital at that point, or one of the other facts, state nicknames, state birds. You can play in different ways depending on what you want to work on. You can also just use the cards as a trivia game, so you don't even have to have the game board. You could use the cards just in the car or something like that if you want to have players quiz each other, where you give one of the clues and they have to guess the state. To adapt the game for players of different ages or different knowledge levels, you could require different things of different players. Some players might have to give state capitals, some might not have to give anything. Little ones could say the colors of the states they're moving through. You could adapt it in all different ways. It really is a fun game. This is one that my kids have requested to play quite a bit. Thank you for joining me for this review of Game of the States. Whether you have the old version like mine or the nice new one, I'm sure you'll have fun playing and your kids will learn where the states are across the U.S. Thank you for joining. Make sure you subscribe and I'll see you next time.